the February 6, 2014 meeting, the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 7:03 p.m. In attendance, regular members Coombs, Gunn, and I'm acting chair Galdenzi. First order of business under new business is application 2013-14-9. It's a subdivision approval of Lot C, Triano Industrial Park, 90 Surrow Road, Assessor Map 13A, Lot 83. It's an I-2 zone. And owner applicant Gaetano Triano.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Bob Criscolo for Mr. Triano, and what I put on the board is the record map from 2007. This is an industrial park known as Triano Industrial Park that was approved in 2007. It's an I-2 zone, and it included 5 lots. To orientate you, this is Foxen Road here, up on the top part of the property, my map, and this is Zero Road. The 5 lots were to the left, and all the way down the end was a remaining parcel of land that was 3.5 acres in size. As part of this original subdivision, there was one parcel, and it was labeled number 6, that was to be deeded to the land trust, and that was 12.2 acres in size. And we're here tonight to hopefully get approval for this parcel that's at the very end. That was a remainder parcel. It was always on the map. There's been no lot line changes. As I mentioned, it's 3.5 acres in size. It is a nice parcel of land. It does contain 1,600 square feet of wetlands. We did get an approval, I think it was 2 weeks ago, from the Inland Wetlands Commission. As part of the plans that we've submitted, we've included a detailed potential site plan, and it shows a possible building laid out as 3,000 square feet. It's 40 by 75. Soil testing was finally done with East Shore, and it passed all the public health code requirements subject to a final design. And this site plan shows 10 potential parking spaces, a wastewater system, and kind of fits in nicely with the land. And Mr. Triano wanted to say the reason why we're back after, it's probably been 7 or 8 years, is just that during that time period the concentration was on the front of the property and not on the rear, and it took a little time to get here, but we're asking for that lot to be finally approved. So that's it. I'd like to open it to any questions that you may have.
We also have a distributed package of the reviews from the various staff on the application. Let me just go over those. The first one is from Alex Donati, the Assistant Director of Health from East Shore Health, dated January 22nd, 2014. Recommend approval per subdivision. I can't read. Last revised 1/10/2014. Final approval needs a detailed septic design, 1 inch equals 20 square feet scale with elevations. The next one is a referral memo from back from Bert Bonnell Jr., Fire Marshal. In other words, first initially he has a previous review which he wants the final one read into the record. This is dated January 24th, 2014. A preliminary plan review was done in accordance with NFPA, CSG, and Connecticut State Fire Safety Code. At this stage, the concept of building location and access is all viable. We will address the fire prevention and safety issues at the building permit process when plans are submitted. The fire suppression part has a water supply issue when this parcel and other parcels in that area are completed. The nearest water source, which is a hydrant that is approximately 1,400 feet away, the NFPA and IOS I mean, ISO standards recommend that in a hydrant area, there will have one hydrant every 500 feet. And then he has his standard closing remark about stressing the importance of minimizing fire safety loads and all those other compliances. The next one is from the police department, Dave Dansico, lieutenant, dated January 23rd, 2014. He feels that the project, if completed in accordance with the documents that have been provided for his review, there are no objections. And that's the other. And then the last review is from Kurt Weiss, dated January 21st, 2014. There are no outstanding engineering staff comments regarding the creation of Lot C as an approved building lot. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Nothing more to add.
The last thing is the approval letter from the Inland Wetland Agency, approval of the subdivision, approval of Lot C with following conditions. No excavation or disturbance shall be allowed until the applicant submits a site-specific application plan for wetland approval. Also, an updated wetland soil report shall be required at the time of the submitted site-specific application plan for building development, and that this is only an approval of a lot subdivision and not a wetland permit. Any further development that would be for Lot C obviously would have to have also a planning and zoning site plan application, so.
Did you get the building? I don't think you
Well,
saw the building.
okay,
Did you see
the,
building? Did you read
that one, the attached memo from the fire marshal has his previous memo
Oh, that's what you-
dated January 22nd, 2014, which has a note on it revised on January 24th.
I see.
Okay. Okay, that's, you know, all we have on that. This application is just for the approval of this lot. So what I would also remind the commission, the open space that was given in the first division of the upper lots is more than adequate to comply with the open space that was needed for this lot also, once it got approved. So the provisions of having the subdivision lot approved would be to the standard condition about filing the Mylar, and also adherence to the requirements of the fire marshal, adherence to the requirements of the East Shore because of the detailed septic system that would be needed on development. And also I'd add a further one about revising the title of the recording map from re-subdivision to subdivision, because that lot was already a parcel in it of itself, and it wasn't further division of an approved lot that was already in the other portion that was first with for approval. So it basically is still under the same subdivision that came forward, because the parcel, it's just a situation that we've had, like in other cases, where if one of the lots couldn't be at the point of approval have adequate testing or whatever for percolation, that it would be just not a buildable lot at the time of the initial subdivision.
Charlie? Doug, any
So,
questions?
No, go ahead.
Comments?
Carol, you were going to say something?
no,
So am I to get this right then? Lot 6 consisted of proposed Lot C on the original subdivision?
no. The original subdivision is exactly what you see here, including what is Lot C, but which was not being asked for approval at that point. It was just being proposed as Lot C. But since there was no percolation tests on it, it just got in under the whole division of the land as being just another parcel that would at some future time possibly be approved for
Okay, so
development.
there's no.
And I believe Mr. Criscola was present at that presentation of that original.
Yeah, I have the original subdivision map if you want to see it.
Right.
It's the same parcel. C is now the one that we're looking for, is becoming a building lot.
Mhm.
And really, the only difference was again, the septic system hadn't been tested before, so
Soil
you,
testing was not done.
so it was a lot that conformed with the zoning, but now it conforms with the other requirements in terms of,
Kind of like the
Soil
ones that
supply.
marked other land, right?
That is correct.
exactly.
Yeah. other
Not a
land.
building lot.
That is correct.
But if that other land was, say, for instance, a large tract that would have been further developed and cut into other parcels, then you would have a re-subdivision.
Yes.
It's more curiosity. I see page 3, you have a set of catch basin. I don't know if I see them on the plan. You have them on the plan? Is it for stormwater?
I'm doing that for anything in the roadway that would be associated
Oh,
with
I see.
any work.
So
So it's a standard detail that's on there.
It's more on the road.
And really, I always add site development plan potential and erosion control, which is normally shown to prove that the lot is a buildable lot.
Okay, gotcha. All right, good. Thanks.
So when any lot is proposed for development as a subdivided lot under a subdivision, it shows a tentative approval that somehow, some type of development could, a building type could be put there. There would be adequate spacing for the septic, and also if it was a well service under the particular health codes. And whether or not a development comes in to mirror exactly what's been
Right.
shown
No, I understand.
is another factor that after
Right.
they submit their detailed proposals.
Correct.
Did you find anything else other than this one? Because all these don't pertain. That's all under site plan.
Right,
I don't think we have any further questions.
Yeah. I just,
yeah, looks,
if, you can pass one of those down if you want.
The same, right?
So, yeah. What I have is a draft motion with standard condition on the recording of the map, which is on item 6. Standard condition item 14 about the fire marshal review adherence. Standard condition 20 about adherence to the requirements of the East Shore. And then the following special condition, the comment about revising the recording map from re-subdivision to subdivision.
I move to approve planning and zoning application 2013-14-9, subdivision approval of Lot C, Triano Industrial Park, 90 Cerro Road, Assessor Map 13A, Lot 83, I-2 zone, owner applicant Gaetano Triano as contained in the submitted application documents and on the entitled maps. Triano Industrial Park, property located at 176 West Pond Road, North Branford, Connecticut. Prepared for G. Dan Triano Record Subdivision Map, proposed Lot C, Sheet 1, dated 11/27/06, revised to 12/20/13, and Sheet 2 and 3, dated 12/20/13. Criscolo Engineering LLC with the following standard conditions: 6, 14, 20, and 22.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion
Here's the-
passes
yeah.
3-0.
Bob? Okay, next item is application 2013-14-10. It's Rolling Meadows subdivision. 6 lots and a 1.3 plus or minus acre open space parcel at 65 Mill Road. Assessor map 29, lot 4, it's an R40 zone. Owner is Henry P. Fortier. Applicant, developer, Ricky Construction Group Incorporated. If you just state your name and firm you're with, who you represent.
Thank you. Hope this can pick me up on the microphone. For the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Mylone and McBroom. Our offices are located at 99 Realty Drive in Cheshire. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant for this subdivision, Ricky Construction Group LLC. What's proposed as part of this application is what I hope to be a rather straightforward subdivision application of a property known as 65 Mill Road. This property is, just to get you oriented, is across the street from Jay Place. It's to the east of Tutucket Road and is bordered on the west by the Farm River and associated floodplain and wetlands, and to the east by, I believe, a lacrosse field, perhaps soccer, that is, I believe, used by the town. The property currently is almost entirely used for agricultural purposes. There is an existing single-family home in the northeast corner of the parcel. North on this map is up. To the south, there are other farmlands that are currently active. The majority of the farmland on the site, from essentially the eastern 2/3 of the parcel, is all cornfields, and that is currently farmed almost all the way down to the edge of the Farm River itself. Presently, the site is served by water. There's a water main on the opposite side of Mill Road, and there is no sewer in this area. The site generally is moderately sloping in areas and relatively flat in other areas, with a ridgeline running essentially from north to south, where the western 2/3 of the property, again, for the most part, the existing cornfields, all drain generally towards the Farm River, and the eastern 1/3 further to the east. And this particular plan is a colored rendering of our proposed conditions for the site. We are proposing a 6-lot subdivision with open space along the Farm River corridor. The first lot, or lot 1, as we refer to it, will contain the existing house and garage's barn, along with the agricultural uses to the rear of the property. And the 5 proposed lots will be located in the central portion of the site. All lots will be served by septic systems, and public water. And 4 of the 5 proposed lots will be standard frontage lots, with one lot that we show as lot 5, which will be an interior lot, which is sized according to the zoning regulations. And as I mentioned earlier, the western 1.3 acres, of the site is proposed as open space. Now, this open space corridor will contain the portion of the Farm River that lies in the property, the associated wetlands and floodplain, and all the activity, or all the upland review area 100 feet outside of the wetlands, and then some. So I think based on the town's plan of conservation and development and the recommendations in the open space plan, we feel that this is something that is both desired by the town and also is applicable for the subdivision. It provides more than 10%, which is a requirement of the subdivision regulations. With respect to drainage on the site, Again, as I mentioned, most of the runoff from the site does drain towards the Farm River in the area that we're proposing development. And as a result of the conversion of the land coverage from agriculture or active agricultural use to more conventional residential lawns, we're actually going to see a decrease, a fairly significant decrease in runoff towards the Farm River. So we don't have any formal detention associated with this because of that decrease in runoff, but we have provided some water quality features on the roof runoffs being directed to underground infiltration galleries. Now, our soil testing on the property generally was favorable. We found that there's some tilled material in the upper foot or two, but as you get down in the deeper soil strata, we found that it's sand and gravel primarily. At this point, we're still awaiting a comment letter from the health district. So I understand that there may be, this discussion will have to continue until the next meeting. But we do feel that site is appropriate for septic systems. With respect to the application itself, your subdivision regulations do require sidewalks and curbing on subdivisions. In this case, we are requesting a waiver of both of those because it is an existing road. And actually recent court cases in the state Supreme Court have indicated that developers aren't responsible for those type of upgrades. But just for the record, we are asking for those waivers formally. We did have some preliminary discussions with town staff, and we have provided for an additional right-of-way along Mill Road. The edge of the property was quite close in some areas to the actual edge of the pavement. So in order to provide 25-foot minimum right-of-way, we are proposing a sliver in the central portion of the site to be dedicated to the town for right-of-way purposes. As I mentioned, we are awaiting comments from the health district, and we did have some correspondence from Mr. Weiss with his concerns on the site, and we haven't formally addressed those at this point because we're waiting for all the comments to come in so we can have one comprehensive set of revisions that hopefully will address all the concerns raised by all departments. I haven't seen any comments from the fire department, but it's my understanding that they don't have any substantial concerns about the site. With that, I hope I covered the basics on this, and if there's any
Yeah.
questions from the commission.
I'll be answering in
Yeah.
what staff comments we have, so
Okay.
obviously he could still additionally comment. Let me do those now. Okay. First one is from the Fire Marshal Burt Bernal, dated January 22nd, 2014. No problem with said application as long as owner, occupant, developer follows all Connecticut general state statutes on the fire safety code. The next one is from Lieutenant David Dansico from the Police Department, dated January 23rd, 2014. He's indicated that if the project complies with the documents that have been provided, there are no objections by the department. And also I've added the email from Kurt Weiss to the engineer, Ryan McEvoy, regarding some initial comments that Kurt's had regarding some of his review comments at this point. I don't know if you want to just cover some of that.
Just to summarize out, these are sort of the initial comments that I pointed out, which is potentially widening the road. The road sort of narrows in front of some of those lots. I have concerns about that. As Ryan already addressed, or pointed out, they're proposing to deed some additional right-of-way to the town to provide basically from the center line of the road, 25 feet would be deeded to the town, because that road is pretty much right on the property line currently. Also cutting some trees along there, it's sightline issues, and they've agreed to do that on there. And let me see, there's some drainage issues. There really isn't any drainage, there's a dry well on the other side of the road of, I think it's lot 2 and 3, or something like, around lot 2.
It's
Two or
right
three?
at the border of lots 3 and 4.
Okay, yeah.
On the opposite side of the street.
Water drains into that property from the road, and I've asked them to address the drainage issues in terms of providing an outlet for that. They have some alternatives in terms of how they do that, so, but I pointed out that it's a concern that Public Works and I have, that it be addressed. They're looking into it, and then we'll review what they will come back with. We've also asked for a snow shelf, some guardrail details and the like. So these were initial comments to give them, not final. Generally, the goal is, when it's all, everything has been addressed, then there won't be any outstanding comments, and we'll go over whatever changes are incorporated into the plan.
Okay, we have 2 other items. One is, I guess one is relating to the open space referral done by the commission to the town council relating to the open space proposal, and you had at the last meeting, I had suggested that even though this was received at that point, the application, and it was for scheduling, that we would move that item to be able to have the next town council meeting have it considered. They did that on February 4th. I was not at the meeting, but the review memo that was forwarded by the commission, which you saw, and the content and the attachments were forwarded to the town council. Kurt was at the meeting, he can elaborate, but essentially the town council indicated that they prefer not to have ownership of it. So under the section of open space, under the subdivision regulations,
And if I could just sort of highlight that, I mean, this is a review by the Public Works Department and myself, and really, the location is better for a passive type open space use. From a Public Works and town point of view, if it becomes town property, it becomes a town maintenance liability, and the cost and time associated with it. And Public Works, their recommendation was land trust, and I totally concur with that. That's seemed to be the best fit. And that was the recommendation to the council.
I just want to, from that section of the open space in the subdivision, just pass out those relevant pages so that for future discussion, you can refer to those, okay? In part of that referral, we also, on the open space proposal, had referred it to the Conservation and the Wetlands Agency in their hat as Conservation Commission. They looked at consistency with the town plan for open space under the town plan of conservation and development, of which that whole body of information was created by this Planning and Zoning Commission with various input from different agencies, including that agency. And here again, they, in their review on January 22nd, 2014, indicated the proposed open space parcel was an important environmental area because of the Farm River along the entire west boundary, and because of a wetland soil area next to the river, and the issue of the fact that it was in public drinking watershed. By keeping the area as dedicated open space, that portion of the Farm River Greenway, which was proposed in the town open space plan, in the town plan of conservation and development, could be established and preserved. The agency concluded that they wanted to provide additional input and recommendations on the parcel's future land use when a determination was made on the entity that would be deeded the land. Now, under your subdivision regulations, section 314, it's quite explicit what factors enter in, and also what are your duties and responsibilities in a proposal of dedicated open space. And one of those duties is determining the entity that would be the appropriate party to own the property and to make sure and maintain the stewardship, and also the type of open space that the commission would feel that was pertinent to be in this, the location of which is the open space area. And that would be based on the natural physical features, you know, the architectural, the historical factors, and the environmental issues that are present on the property. And also whether or not, you know, the use that it's been, even agricultural use, and also wetlands and any other factors of the natural resource of the property in that area. So obviously, this is still going to be an open discussion for your deliberation on it. And one of the other factors is obviously this, when it got referred to the North Branford Land Trust, Conservation Land Trust, they have responded with a correspondence back to you, which I'll hand out. Let me enter that into the record. Okay. And this is dated February 5th. Yes. I'm sorry. Do you want a copy of the other? Let me read that into the record, since we do have the president of the Land Trust in attendance, plus there's public from the neighborhood that I recognize here. So it's directed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Dear Chairman, the North Branford Land Conservation Trust, Inc. has received plans for a proposed residential subdivision on the aforementioned property. This property borders and drains directly to the Farm River, a protected town natural resource. Our primary concern about the subdivision is the potential negative impact on the town's vision for a greenway along the Farm River. Map 6 of the town of North Branford's open space plan, a component of the town's plan of conservation and development, adopted November 10th, 2009, designates a greenway along the Farm River and the subject property. We note that the development rights to adjoining land on the south and west have been acquired by the state of Connecticut. With only 1.3 acres of open space, the proposed subdivision as presently conceived would encroach and hinder development of this greenway and does not allow for sufficient buffer visually to the Farm River and physically to the wetlands along the river. In addition to the above concern, the Farm River is a state-stocked public fishing stream, and the subdivision as proposed may limit access to the river and the deeded rights to fish from the subject property. The Farm River is also a source of public drinking water, which further raises concerns of the size of the buffer separating the stream from overland runoff of lawns, pavement, and other impervious surfaces. We respectfully ask this commission to carefully consider the responsibilities and duties of the commission under the town subdivision regulations section to protect the parcel's natural and scenic resources, the town's adopted open space plan, and our concerns noted above when making a final decision on this proposal. Thank you for this opportunity to comment. As a land conservation trust, we are a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization comprised of residents of the town dedicated to the conservation of land and its natural resources for the benefit of the community. We look forward to working with the commission in the future. Sincerely, David Sargent, President of the North Branford Conservation Trust Incorporated. And in addition, he's attached a color rendering, reduced size of the proposed open space plan, showing where the location is. That's one of the attachments that you had forwarded to, in your referral to the town council. Here again, here's the open space plan. If you do look at this color rendering, we do have the development rights, what they're talking about on the adjacent properties. This is where the property is, and those are the yellow areas. The blue line shows the proposed greenway for the river. So I want to submit that in to the record.
This is the proposed greenway, is it?
Yeah,
This
it's,
is the- but that's
that's the property, yeah,
the
Not right now,
open
you can
space
get one.
part.
right.
Oh, yeah, I think there's copies in it.
When you looked at the referral attachments on your review for the town council, I had given you this attachment showing the location.
Do you have extras,
You
Brian?
want to see the color rendering? It's easier to see.
I have additional copies here that I prepared.
Well, I figured since, we'll just highlight right this time of the plan, but obviously there's a lot of things else to consider and review.
If I may, can I just
Well,
respond to that?
well, you can do that, and then I have one more entry
Okay,
of
I'll check.
documents, okay? Do you want me to finish? or-
No, please.
Okay. Then the other item I want to enter into, you can have a copy of that, is an email that I received directed to this subdivision, which normally when we do get something like this in, we submit it into the record also. It's from a resident, Peter Strickland, and it was submitted by email to me Wednesday, February 5th, 2014. Hi, my name is Peter Strickland, and I reside at 44 Mill Road. I am writing to see if certain reports have been done regarding the Rolling Meadows subdivision at 65 Mill Road. Has an environmental impact report been done and submitted? If not, I would request one be done and be presented to this board. Let me just read it in and then I'll respond. Have any soil tests been done to see if there is any hazardous materials in the ground? This was used as farming, and I would like to see a test to ensure that the hazardous material isn't unearthed. Then goes on, I would like to see an expert on American Indian archaeology inspect the land to see if there is any evidence of Indians having been on the site. Thank you for taking the time to read this into the meeting minutes. Okay, the first item about an environmental impact report. We have not received one by the applicant. There isn't any particular thing in the regulations that requires the applicant to submit one. You obviously can respond to this also after I finish talking. Have any soil tests been done to see if there's any hazardous materials? I defer to the applicant's engineer again on that one. And as regarding to an expert on American and Indian archaeology, inspect the land to see if any evidence. I do know under the subdivision regulations that I passed out, the section before the open space one on page 8 does say sites of archaeological significance. The applicant shall make written inquiry by certified mail return receipt, a request of the state archaeologist to determine if such evidence of sites, archaeological sites, are significant within the subdivision. And then it goes on further, that later shall be submitted to the commission, okay? And it's for those areas that have a high sensitivity area shown on the town's official archaeology base map. I remember seeing an old map, and I was trying to find it today in the office, and I know there was one at one point, but how accurate it is another question. I would say the commission has the choice of, since we don't really know if this is within a high sensitive area, of having the applicant require him to email the state archaeologist. I did go on their site today, and there has been 2 studies in the particular area that's listed on their site. Let me just see if I can find it now. One is,
2 areas in our town? Or
well,
is it
on
the
Mill
state?
Road,
On Mill
because
Road,
of the
okay.
state project, they did
Yep.
a phase 1 and a phase 2 archaeological study
Okay.
for that DOT project in 1996 and 1995. And probably as required because of the historic nature of the bridge.
Yeah.
And also adjacent land on the other side had a historic dam plus a old mill
Yep. Yeah.
that had been more recently, in modern time, converted to a resident. So those, unfortunately, are in the archives in stores in the archaeological center. In order to retrieve a copy, you have to physically go and see it. They do not have those documents, those 2 studies online. So the very fact of emailing the state archaeologist or having a certified letter go out by the applicant would certainly at least research those 2 studies that have been done. And if a phase 2 was done, and they probably did more than just a cursory review of the area, they probably did some diggings in the foundation area and in the general area of the river. So obviously there's a period of time it says if no letter comes back within 30 days receipt of the notice to the state archaeologist, then the commission can presume that archaeologist has determined the area is not located within such a significant architectural area. The fact that the bridge has been rebuilt too is another factor. So whatever.
The other thing that goes with that, because
Mhm.
I hit it once on a school down in Norwalk, is if they do excavation and they find anything, it could be an arrowhead, they have to automatically stop construction and report
Mhm.
it.
Mhm. I don't know, when was the first time you got preliminary design plans for the Mill Bridge?
Well, it was probably 96, 97, because I think it was built in 99. It took a
Oh,
while
okay.
for acquisitions.
Mhm.
But, I mean,
Well-
that focus on the bridge.
Yeah.
That-
Mhm.
Well, I
Absolutely.
know I've been called out by the state archaeologist on one dig that did for a highway project since I've been here. And they documented artifacts from the historic site. And I also know of another location that's been documented
On Mill Road? Or you're just saying in general?
in general.
In general, yeah.
I can't disclose these
Yeah, that's okay.
locations. They're
I don't wanna know.
protected by the federal law.
Okay.
So anyways, I would suggest that the commission require that be checked. Either if you want me to email their state archaeologist, I've worked with him with these 2 other areas, so, or you can have the applicant as required by,
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're gonna go that route, I think
Mhm.
it clearly states the applicant should
Mhm.
request. Yeah, I was struggling with the high sensitivity area at first, but not realizing that there had been some history with the Mill Road project that
Mhm.
suggests that that might be,
well,
so.
that's what the
kind of-
evidence I found.
Kind of, I guess, solidified a little more.
Just out of curiosity, where does the sewer end in this area?
It's not anywhere,
Does it service J Place in any of those?
no, none of that. Caputa Road
Question for the sewer.
and some of
Yeah.
Wood Chase Lane.
Okay, here's the
Does it-
download of those
It comes
two
up with
studies.
Chase.
The old section of Wood Chase, not the newer section.
Okay.
So closer to Tuckett Road,
Yeah.
but nothing up this far. Not,
So
not
when they-
not even remotely
So
close.
it's
When they
just a
did the additional
document
work,
that
they
says they
never
did something.
continued
Right.
it?
I mean, there's
No.
other
Joe
studies
Stone
that-
Way goes towards the Caputa Road.
There's other
That's what it
studies within the
Okay.
town, but I
Yeah.
just
Yep.
queried those. I think there's like, about 18 studies
Yeah,
over
okay.
the course of the year.
I want to see, it's just a record that there were 2 studies on Mill Road, doesn't have any
I
conclusion.
mean, I'm
It's
sure
just-
they'll look at those 2 particular studies that are dated, I think they're called CHC numbers, 600 and 630.
I read it while you had it.
I'll do a follow-up email, so, their site is
We don't have-
easy
I
to
mean,
get
We don't have
into.
any health department
No, that's the other
review
thing.
either, right? At this point?
I sent it out on the January 21st. I followed up with a voice email to Alex Sinati this morning. I haven't heard anything back, and so that's another factor that has to be entered into in order for the commission to do any action on this
Mhm.
application. So
Great.
that's another technicality that has to be
Right.
received.
You guys, what do you?
And I think you also talked to them also, right?
Yes, they were waiting payment for the review of the application, and that's been submitted, so we're expecting comments shortly, hopefully.
Okay.
The other thing, do you want to also comment on those other items in this email that was forwarded to the town?
What other
Hazardous
items?
materials.
The hazardous waste,
Oh, okay.
materials, and soil testing and environmental report.
I'm personally not aware of any tests regards to contaminated materials or anything of that nature. Again, I think Carol mentioned before, it's not something that's explicitly required by your subdivision regulations, so it wasn't something that we looked to do. But with respect to the archaeologist, we can reach out to Nick Bellantoni and see if he has any, if he can pull the archives or if he wants to come out and look at the site. That's certainly not a concern. With respect to the letter from the land trust, with regard to the open space, I just would like to note that you guys have all seen the colored 11 by 17 plans of the proposed open space plan, and the only item that's depicted on this particular parcel is the proposed greenway, the Farm River Greenway, which, when you superimpose this plan, even though this is at a very small scale, or large scale, that greenway falls within our proposed open space. So, and with respect to some of the concerns that they raised about runoff from the site, I can only testify that the likely condition, current condition being an active farm, is that you have significant higher rate of siltation and runoff that gets to the river than what would happen under our proposed conditions. So, while I certainly respect their opinion about the nature of the open space, I feel it's certainly my opinion, the applicants, that what we're proposing certainly is within the recommendations and suggestions of your plan of conservation and development. In terms of, I remember all the issues they raised, but I think those are the two biggest ones about the greenway and the nature of the residential development. But again, the open space is slightly larger than the 10% minimum required by your subdivision regulations as well. So with that, if you have any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm sure there, well, this isn't a public hearing. I understand that you may want to take some testimony from members of the public.
Do you have any
Didn't,
comments?
just a question to you, I guess, Kurt. Did we have, when we had a lot of rain, wasn't there a rut of drainage that went through this parcel some years ago?
Through the parcel?
Yeah.
I mean, the Mill Pond, I mean, the Farm River in the area, the dam and that whole area downstream, we've had floods along there.
Mhm.
And I think you have a demarcated, I mean, there's the flood zone associated with the Farm River that comes up on into that open space parcel, but it doesn't go up.
The flood zone's actually inside of the wetland area, so this whole
Yeah.
orange shaded area is, the wetlands and the flood zone is just inside of that line.
During the 92 storm, we had a problem with the bridge
Yeah.
because of the 92 storm. It undermined the old bridge, where the old bridge was.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
'Cause-
because I
yeah, there
thought
was an issue
a lot
over
of
there.
erosion that happened on that side.
Yeah, that whole, that was on the north side of Mill Road. The bridge used to sort of loop around there, and there was some undermining. We had to do emergency repairs.
We had that one,
92.
and then the one, I think, the year after. It was two of them.
It was the 92 and the 96 were big
Okay.
storms, yeah. But the dam itself was, the new dam was put up in I believe it's 1999.
I mean, you can see there's a pretty good buffer between the 100-year flood, FEMA flood line to even the first lot, so it's all within that open space.
Well, regarding the open space too, I'd like to also, it's shown on the reference on, I believe it's the subdivision map that you have with the notes. You'll have to look at the other one. There's two references relating to rights over that open space area. One is the old utility easement from the telephone company, which was a lease for 99 years, which expired upon the termination notice sent 3 months after by the owner of the property in 2004. And I don't believe that happened, but here again, I have no indication from the property owner that they terminated and gave proper notice for that long lease. It was to have pole lines for telephone service along the river area, I guess for future development purposes. The other one is a right-of-way for access, exiting and access to the adjacent rear property from one farmer to another that's been handed down for a right of access off of Mill Road, which was created in 1853 by the owners of this piece, the farmland, and also the farmland in the back to which the access goes. So it was to have an access essentially along where the river is. That road has continued to be available to the descendants of the right of that access. And so I think in the road reconstruction for the bridge, that road was further aligned to be better, for better usage. And you can see the road in the aerials, if you see the blow up enough to see the detail of it. There is, the town had put a gate within the right-of-way of the right-of-way of the road to where the start of that road, dirt road is, so maybe you can show on that one. Do you see the gate there? And
The gate is just, there's some storm drainage riprap alongside the road, and there's a gate in this vicinity, and the road, it's not visible in this particular aerial, but it generally runs in the wetland area, between the wetland area and the river itself.
It's right here. Here's the gate. I'll enter that as an exhibit, and you can see it right here.
So this
It goes
is
down and it connects into,
this is an easement, sort of
well, it's got access rights.
access rates.
Okay, so it's in, generally in this area, okay? And when you look at you can go on the GIS map for the town, and then look at the aerials, which is the 2012 aerials. And
How does that
you can-
change
you
with
can
this
blow
open
that up.
space? Does anything
Well, this is
change?
where the line is of the open space right
Right.
here, okay? So, in other words, that continues regardless of what, happens to this piece.
Yeah, okay.
They have the right of that, so.
Is it to a
Stephanie
specific
Page,
landowner?
it's Stephanie Page who her family owns the back piece, of which has state of Connecticut development rights for agricultural use. And they were deeded with that land, the access
Yes, okay,
rights.
so it's they have access.
Correct. They are also the tenant farmer on the parcel
Okay.
for the corn crop that's being grown there.
So
on
that
the
wouldn't
entire
change then?
tract. That's.
The access rates wouldn't change.
So that gate would access this parcel here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's preserved as a right. Also, the Waltonian rights into the use of the river. Farmers, way back historically in the colonial days, all along the Farm River, signed a mutual pact on the land records to have all those farmers that were in this pact of agreement to have each other's land be used by the other members for access for fishing. And so that had been turned over the Waltonian Club at some point. I have all the deeded rights and the documents, but they deeded that over to the state of Connecticut. So the DEP now has those rights to maintain and stock for fish and for access. So that continues on the property.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think we've got to think about what we're going to ask for the archaeological report.
I did ask Stephanie Page when she came in to address her concern about making sure that these rights that her family own over this land would be continued, obviously, and not be impacted by the fact that it's a proposed open space area. And I did ask her whether or not, if it was deeded as open space to an entity, was there any possibility of continuing any agricultural use on it other than the road? And, she had indicated to me corn crops wouldn't be adequate to be put on this one piece. But I asked her about a hay field, and she indicated that that could be a possibility. Now, with the hay field, I know the South Central Regional government, not government, but the water company has bought property and then had farmers do hay fields on it.
Okay.
And so that, obviously, these are leased agreements they have for these types of uses, but that is a stable crop in which there's no tillage where there's any erosion control problems, and
Yep.
plus it's maintained year-round with a cover, stable cover. Certainly, that may be one of the things of consideration on what happens to this property. Obviously, if you review at some point the various sections of the requirements under condition of the open space sections, I don't want to get into the complicated issues relating to it, but usually if it's kept in for preservation and protection of wildlife and natural or scenic resources, it's typically kept in a natural state by the developer, and then it's deeded over to the entity the commission conditions the approval to. And also, generally, the kind of condition or terms of use that would be in the deed that the entity has to comply with, which you would then put as part of your condition of approval that that document would have. Now, obviously, if it was active recreation, then it would have, you know, some clearing allowed with some grading and some cover of topsoil and other issues, be seeded with low maintenance seeding and other things. So there's some requirements, depending on how it's treated, that the developer would have to be adhering to as part of your approval, if you so addressed it in that manner. So I think, plus whoever you think the entity should be, obviously the list is there in your regulations. The first one, under page 9, under section C.
No, town doesn't want it, right?
Yeah, it's the town first, and then fee simple to the state of Connecticut. Then the next choice is fee simple to the North Branford Land Conservation Trust. And unfortunately, page
10
page 10 is not in here. In fact, let me read it from my regulation. What happened, it was double-sided, and it didn't go through, it's double-sided. The next one is, the next one is, conveyance fee simple to a homeowners association, then conveyance of conservation easements with or without public access or to the town, or conveyance of conservation or preservation restrictions to the town, okay? Then also conveyance of an agricultural easement to the town, the state, or a private nonprofit farm preservation entity, and then private ownership with appropriate servancy and conveyance of development rights. Okay, so in other words, it could be to a particular private owner with conveyance rights of development for just agricultural purposes. And any combination of the above or any other suitable alternative approved by the commission. The other thing is because it's in the watershed area, it could be deeded to, I would think, the water company, because it's in public drinking water, with a proviso that, you know, some kind of treatment of the area, or if you felt a hay field was a good stable crop, and that, you know, they certainly would be protecting the riparian corridor. But here, that's another thing I just wanted to put out, so that you'd start thinking about this and review those sections of the regulations.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I haven't heard back the letter that's been sent by the North Branford Land Trust doesn't address, whether they would be willing to accept the land, so
Yeah,
maybe
right,
the
and I-
question
Sure
has,
doesn't sound that way.
well, obviously they
Well,
think,
they don't even
yeah,
address it really, right?
no,
It's just
but
more addressing the application.
if you want
So
to,
you had a question, you started asking a question
Well,
about the
I think we
archaeological?
covered some of it,
Yeah,
we
okay.
have several things to decide. Are we gonna ask questions?
Yeah.
And also, we have the problem of, just waiting for East Shore Health
Yeah, East
to
Shore.
finish their work.
Mhm.
And the big question is, how do we protect that land? Who gets it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, so, wait and see, I guess.
Well, the other thing is, the Conservation and Inland Wetlands Commission can also weigh in again on the fact that the town doesn't want it, so then they can also weigh in on what possible uses would work for the environmental part of it. Here again, when they have applications before them, if there was any development in this area, and in their regulated jurisdiction, they would be able to require, number one, probably a public hearing determination, because there would be some impact. And the other thing, they would require part of the documentation, environmental impact report. That's where that agency takes and evaluates those issues under their duties and responsibilities under the inland wetland law. So the fact that this open space area is beyond the regulated area, and it's being just proposed as open space with no particular development, there isn't any need for that agency to formally take action on that. However, they still want to be involved in having some additional impact to tell you what they think on the environmental issues. I mean, they certainly didn't think agricultural tillage crops, like what's being done in part of the area there on this piece that's being proposed, would be appropriate, because the stabilization of the soil, because it goes on a slope downward, is not appropriate. Actually, the roadway helps kind of stabilize that, because it's on a
Yeah,
little
okay.
plateau. But here again, certainly, and the farmer that's now doing the crops wouldn't think it would be appropriate to have tillage of crops, other than, maybe possibly a hay field in that part, if it was to be kept in some agricultural use. So,
So if we're gonna have the applicant inquire about the archaeological significance,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you're saying?
Yes.
mhm.
That's pretty clear in the
Yeah,
regulations.
exactly.
Needs to check on.
And do you want to have me make any inquiry of North Branford
Land trust.
Land Trust as
Yeah.
to whether they would be interested in the property? And do you want me also make inquiry to the regional water company,
Why not?
just to
Yeah, why
see
not?
what they might say?
It's certainly a piece of land that I'd like to see us
Mhm.
protect.
And then
I
we'll
will just-
eventually get the health department, I assume.
Yeah.
You've paid the fee, so we should be hearing from them.
Mhm.
I just want to add, with regard to the Regional Water Authority, we did notify them of this application by certified mail. We haven't heard anything from them
Mhm.
with regard to the application. If you'd like the
Mhm.
green card, I can give that to you.
Well, yeah, the land use section would be also, you probably notified,
Ron Walters.
yes, I sent him a notice too, and he hasn't, on the referral of the application,
Mhm.
and he hasn't gotten it back to me on any comments, so that's another item. It's required to have some comments back if, within a certain period of time. But there's a different leg of the water company, the real estate manager I can contact also. I know this is
Okay.
not a hearing for public comment, but we do have some people, and I see someone raising their hand. It's up to the commission if you want to entertain any comments. The other issue is, you know, if you do entertain comments from one party, then you have to also hear everybody else in the room, you know, for due process. So,
Doug, Charlie, any
I'm
opinions?
kind of lukewarm to the idea. We got a lot of loose ends.
huh?
I'm lukewarm to the idea.
We can't take any action on this tonight anyway, right?
No,
I mean, clearly, we've got some outstanding items.
right.
I agree. There are some outstanding items with this whole development, and
Need to-
it's gonna be tabled to the next meeting at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Are there any other questions that you may have at this point that we might be able to address prior to the next meeting?
I don't.
Do you have anything else?
Doug, Charlie?
Do we want to respond at all to Strickland's other questions about the hazardous tests for hazardous materials? Don't think it's covered in our regulations anyway.
Well, I can just, again, it's not required in the regulations, it's something that typically, if the applicant as purchaser would be interested for his own protection, perhaps, but I don't know if it's been required of any other applicant, and surely other farmland's been pursued for development purposes in this town. I don't know if that's something that's usually required by this commission or not. And just as a side note, they will be served by public water, so there's not going to be any drinking water wells in the site either.
Mhm.
Just a side note, when you locate homes on a piece of property, I would locate it more towards the front so they have more of a backyard. That's a little thing that.
Well, yeah, I think
The architect in you.
for the purposes of this application, you know, we show, I would say, feasible locations of houses.
Lot 4 in particular.
And, you know, obviously, you know, when it comes to individual lot design, you know, things may change with location of houses.
Yeah, he said that, okay. Okay?
Yeah.
We'll consider it next meeting,
Yeah.
okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're going to table this to the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Which is on February 20th.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There's these colored maps. Collection?
Why don't you
Keep
hold
this for
on?
the next time, yeah.
Yeah, I'll hold on to the maps. Do you
Here,
want
if you
to
don't-
take the regulations?
Yeah,
you?
I'll keep the regular, actually,
Yeah.
I'll keep the map, because I'll just keep the whole thing for next time. Okay, next item on the agenda is planning and zoning application 2012-13-8. Rosa Bianca Vineyards, interim development plan under Phase 1 for limited wine tasting and wine production in existing accessory barn building with associated parking area, 1536 Middletown Avenue. Map 67, Lot 70, R40 zone, owner applicant Charles Rosa Bianca.
Okay, let me just pass out. pass that down. Okay, if you remember at one of the previous meetings, I had, under my town planner's report, indicated that the applicant of the winery on Middletown Avenue had approached me to ask what kind of zoning process he would need to make some changes to his overall approval. And before he started doing the main building, which had been approved, his process had been quite lengthy, zoning regulations, special use application, and then site plan application. And because he was at the preliminary stage of wanting to start his vineyard, he wanted to utilize the existing barn, which was approved under his approvals for an accessory building to the principal winery operation. So you had indicated that if he submitted something that related to what he was intending to do and a temporary parking scenario, because the concern was about parking, that would be something that could be informally approved by the commission. So he is present here, Charles Bianca, Rosa Bianca, and you want to state your name and as owner of the property, and also you can go over your statement of use and
Charlie Rosa
parking.
Bianca, and property is at 1536 Middletown Avenue, where I propose the winery. As a preliminary step, I've started in the barn to process some wine in anticipation of the building. But that's going to take a little longer than what I expected it to take. So what I'm trying to start doing is in the barn, there's a second floor on there, and I want to establish a tasting area. Nothing like what I plan on doing in the winery. It's strictly to taste the wine, buy a bottle of wine, and basically that's it. We won't be serving food. There's no washing or anything, basically. You do a tasting, you take the glass home with you, so there's no real design, shall we say, of wastewater, that type of thing, to take care of that. The occupancy up there, as I laid it out, is 32 people max, and I have seating for 24. Basically 6 tables and 4 chairs, and there's a bar where 3 or 4 people can do the tasting. Parking, I've identified on the map, and it's just my handwriting, my sketches of what I anticipate there. But parking for 12 cars, in talking to the building official and fire marshal, we needed 2 handicap spaces, which I outlined on the side of the barn. If there's any overflow, which I really don't intend much to be, if there's only seating for 24 people, there's two other areas, one up along the driveway coming up and one on the side of the parking lot near the barn where additional cars can be parked. I only plan on being open a couple days a week, at least to start. I don't have a lot of wine, and it's a very difficult thing to open up, have everybody come in and taste your wine and now not have anything left for the rest of the year. So I plan on doing what we're calling a soft opening, not really doing a lot of advertising, although I'm sure once the word gets out, people are going to come. But very small area. Again, as I said, only seating for 24. Events, I don't plan on doing any events there. If something were to come up, then we would address that as a special event. Nothing planned. I just don't have the facilities or the product to be able to handle anything like that at this point. This is just a preliminary step to get started, so I can start generating some revenue to continue with this project on the hill.
Is there restrooms?
There's a restroom there.
There is a restroom.
We have to modify that. The building official and the fire marshal came there. And there's some modification I have to do there to allow them to have access.
So what is the surface for the parking? The parking.
It's
ground, so the grass overflow. Okay.
yeah, grass is the old.
You're gonna, this is just a thought on what you would do for it. You're not gonna really plan on this would be a parking layout, would you? It's just that there's issues that I have with it is because when you look at this, you're backing cars into other cars and,
I tried to conform, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
I tried to use the print that was done before, and it was a 10 by 20 space with a 20-foot space between the two rows of cars. At least that's what I was able to measure on there. And I think I've done that.
Are you talking more with the overflow?
no,
Or
like,
the existing?
well, even if you consider
Parking lot
overflow,
handicap?
you still don't have, 24 here. The other thing is like this parking space, you don't want to be pulling in and then pulling out where you're gonna have to back pretty much out across two other spots, and then how do you get into these spots and get out of them? Over here, I mean, this, you're gonna have to drive around and do this and then back, it's not that easy of a layout.
It's right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's why I think it's
Yeah.
handicap here.
Yeah, it is
pull it off.
Is that a
preliminary. I
parking
just put it
space
on there
right
just to kind of get a flavor.
Well,
Oh,
you probably have
it's
to
a
put three.
walkway.
You have to put the
We'll
handicap,
make
and you put a little
modifications
walkway
as
in there.
needed,
You go this way.
but,
That's what I was thinking.
I just wanted to at least address where the parking would be, could potentially
Mhm.
be.
Sort of, my comment, and I told Charlie, the question is, what do you need for parking?
Yeah.
And again, if you're successful, if you put a grand opening sign out front and you get a bunch of cars, you got a problem. I mean,
Yeah.
that's that's the consideration. You want to have a controlled environment out of this, and that's up to, Charlie in terms of how he's gonna operate it and limit it. But the worst thing you do, I just imagine, you put the big balloon up there, grand opening, and you get 50 cars going up there, you got a big problem, and it's not only here, but then you have it out, people parking on Milltown Avenue or trying to, and
Yeah,
that's the thing you want to avoid. You want to have,
backing out on the Middletown Avenue.
we have to have a turnaround area up top, so if someone comes up, they can get back out.
That's a good point, yeah.
Well, it's the other thing, what you're saying is if you need, say, a paramedic or something that comes in, you need that turnaround.
Well, yeah, and for that, and again, just for anybody, if you have more
normal,
people
yeah.
coming, and there's not parking at the top, you gotta have a way to get out. You don't want people backing down, it's just,
Yeah, you don't want people backing down, that's for sure.
it's not gonna work. And again, this is just my observation. In terms of operation, you, like Troy said, you have to have a soft type of thing and have a controlled flow in and out of there. If you have a big event, or you try to have a big event, you're gonna have a big problem.
12, yeah, that's only 12 actual parking spaces.
Well, I'm kind of getting rid of this spot.
And I was thinking, it's just, when I looked at it after we laid out, I was thinking, you park them up against the building the other way, if you had back to back almost. You might be able to get a little more, you're cutting your overflow, but you might get a few more dedicated spots up top.
Being up on the hills. that go
Yeah,
this way.
I mean, this is sort of my thought, you just park them this way
Mhm.
and that way, and they're more designated, and then you have your 24-foot aisle in between.
Think of it as, what if I was driving in here and tried to get into, like, this spot over here? This one down
Sideway
here.
spots.
Yeah, you're gonna have to drive through here and over to here and just,
Yeah, you absolutely want to make it workable so that,
I think you raise a good point about a turnaround though. There has to
Well,
be, I think,
move the
enough-
handicapped
there needs to be
over
enough
here
to
and-
turn around. Because you get people back in and out onto Middletown Avenue, that's just not a good situation.
yeah, and these spots,
Too fast. Too much.
I mean, You're saying, okay, I could pull in here and do this, and then how do you back out?
Well,
You get more-
Kurt and I had met with him last week at the site.
Yeah.
Well, you could turn, you can go
Yeah,
there
it was
and back
last
out.
week,
Well,
and,
Of course, if it was filled there, you could.
as a result,
Some kind of, yeah, you could back.
we had kind of looked at different areas and had suggested some things, and then he came forward with this, and because of, you know, snow days and whatever, you know, this
Yeah.
was forwarded to us,
You don't wanna use that.
I believe
No,
it
it's-
was,
I mean, you're showing it.
last Monday or Tuesday. I mean,
That's okay.
I mean, that was my thought.
you know, in other words, we're still, I mean, Kurt was busy, I was busy, this week. So we haven't really had a time to further,
Is it flat enough there that you could put the road for the parking around the building? You know, on the sides?
Well,
of the-
there's a big tree in the back, which would make it difficult.
Your septic system?
Septic system is on the side of the tree. And what I'm trying to do, I mean, I could pave everything and make it really nice and stuff, but this is preliminary step one. Trying to get through the first step so that I can, you know, develop the piece up on top where we'll have permanent parking and driveways and all of that to get there, but for now, I'm trying to, whatever I pave or start putting gravel in, later I want to plant down here. So that's, you know, it's gonna ruin, not ruin, but it's gonna, you know, more steps in getting the plantings done. But I could look at the parking. I'm not an engineer, so I did the best I could with what I had here, and what Kurt just showed me kind of makes a lot more sense and actually gives me more parking spaces than what I have, permanent parking. Well, not permanent.
Is it a lot
Primary.
turning around?
Yeah, well, I was just looking going the other way and having a 24-foot aisle in the,
Oh, this way and this way?
yeah, exactly,
This and then-
right. You gotta provide for handicap in here, but
well, you're gonna use one parking space to have for the door.
for the handicap, yeah, but
Because
there's
the
between the
door's right
handicap
there,
and
yeah.
there, yeah, depending on how you lay that out.
So you can pull out and drive out, right?
Yeah, and there's,
Drive
you
in.
can pull into a spot and then back, you know, with 24 feet, you could back around.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
How many are there?
You guys want to see?
There's like
that?
11
This-
there,
this
kind of
makes
handicap. Plus you have the other
Makes-
4.
Oh, okay.
I feel a little
Up on
better
the hill.
about that.
Then you get about 11 in here, then you get these right here.
So you can
This
Back out of the
is the
space,
problem
pull out
that
of
they
the
have
space.
too, and
drive
how do
down
you back
straight.
out,
So this
you
is
know?
parking here, and these are,
Or you
and then you
drive up
put a
and go around
thing
and then
here.
back down.
Yeah.
and this is so cars can do this.
I
Or
know
else they're
this
dead
is a
spaces.
requirement
Pardon?
for the zoning in order for your liquor permit for wine tasting.
Yeah.
Do you know also if the documents require that they have to see where the actual building space is, how it's laid out? Do they look at that also?
The interior of the building?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a preliminary one that, I'm starting to put this together for the
So
application.
would they think because that isn't part of the documents you got for zoning, would they have a problem with that? Because if the zoning sign off is just based on this general statement of use, which doesn't say what floor it's on, it just says seating area. Is that too vague for them to,
Well, I think they're gonna, I mean, their requirements are a lot more detailed. They want pictures with the tables in there and, you know, your access routes and, you know, your facilities, your bathrooms, the bar itself. So they want pictures of all of that stuff, which is, I mean, interesting for me to do. It's, you know, I'm looking to put the application in. So I've got a skeleton for a bar there now, and I have tables that I'm working on.
but your bathroom's on the first floor, right?
Bathrooms on the first
Yeah.
floor, correct.
They might ask for separation between your wine vats that, you know, you're doing.
Yeah, that's a federal requirement, and there will, I mean, we don't see it there now, but there's gonna be a wall that'll be up there, and that wall could be just a chain link fence or anything, just to have the separation with a locked door. And if you remember where that sink is next to the bathroom, that's where the door would be. I already submitted that to TTB last year to get my bond approval. I mean, it's been modified, but the basic layout is the same as far as where that wall of demarcation is for, unpaid tax or pre-tax and post-tax.
Well, could you, since, a final plan for the parking has to be resubmitted, I would think, that you'd want to look at. Could you just make inquiry up at the state to make sure that if it doesn't have a seating plan as part of the zoning and show an interior layout, that's going to hinder their approval? I
can provide that to you.
Yeah.
The
Well-
interior seating. I mean, I have something, it's a sketch, it's preliminary at this
Yeah.
point.
I'm just wondering if they only have this in the statement of use, they may say, it really doesn't define where you're doing it in the building and.
Yeah, no, that's not the
Yeah.
document that the state is requiring. There's
Yeah.
a lot more. If that's what zoning needs, then
Well,
I can
on
provide
other
that.
things, I've had to submit the letter and sometimes they've asked for, different other parts of the application, like the maps and, so I'm not sure if, I just don't want you to have to go back and come back to this agency for something that, they say that, hey, it's not a complete approval that you've got for zoning. That could be a problem. It's just like, usually when they do the walkthrough before they issue the permit, they look over the area and, whatever renovations have already been, built and approved by a building permit and everything else, so that, they are looking at a defined area, so.
Are you basically saying, I think what Carol's saying is, can you just check to make sure
Yeah, check
that
with
you get
them.
everything you need
And
before
what
they
they-
take an action, which like maybe, so it might push off 2 weeks, I think is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
So that if they take an action, then you only have a one-step process, not a two-step process. I think that's what Carol's saying. Make sure you have everything you need so that when you come here, you get everything you need from this commission,
Yeah.
rather than having to come back to the commission the second
Yeah.
time.
What we approve, I think gives you the
I
ability to
guess-
get what you need
I
from the
guess,
state.
I guess
Yeah.
you've got to
No.
make sure
To make
that
sure that,
the state's not going to ask you for the documents you submitted to, to the local agency
Well, I guess,
for zoning.
I guess what I'm looking at here is what I'm trying to do is.
Just make an inquiry, okay?
Yes.
You
by all
understand what
means,
I'm saying.
But I guess what I'm trying to do here is to make sure that I don't have any issues that I need to, before I start this process with the
Mhm.
state, to make sure that there's no issues with me operating on a limited scale in the barn. Basically, that's what I'm looking.
Mhm.
Obviously, meeting all the requirements or regulation for the parking, for the bathrooms, and what the state's gonna ask me for. I have to meet all of those, but I just wanna make sure that I'm not gonna have
Mhm.
any problems with, planning and zoning operating out of the barn.
Well, right now, if you just went and got that wine tasting, yes, you would have a definite problem, because what they did was, in your general approval, that barn is for accessory wine processing,
Mhm.
production, use, okay? So in other words, supplies and storage and winemaking
Mhm.
stuff. It wasn't for public space.
Right.
So, yes, you would never get a sign off, that's the problem. And, he's correct in coming to ask you for
Mhm,
this,
yeah.
which isn't unreasonable. It's just,
No.
I want to make sure that he's not in a catch-22 where the
Right.
state
Yeah.
officials
I think
say,
he
well, what
understands.
was the plan that you showed them? And, they just approved based on this. I mean, it's in your best interest. If you find out that you have somebody that says to you at the state, no, we don't need the documents of the layout of the actual space or anything like that, even a temporary sketch on which they based their approval, then fine. I mean, then if you want to just go forward, and once you hear that from him, at least you know you've done your part to,
Well, we want to
address
see
what he
a
needs.
revised parking,
So when you come back, you'll have that information
Yeah,
from the state,
yeah.
just like you suggested.
Yeah, and if you
I'll have
can,
to revise
Require
parking.
yeah,
I'll
just
have-
talk to
from the
somebody at the
state.
I'll
state.
talk to someone at the state with a layout of the
Yeah.
building and,
If they say
present
that layout that you have to submit to them should have been also given to planning and zoning as part of their approval, then, you know, just give us what you tentatively and just write proposed area. And if it gets tweaked somehow because of either building requirements or fire code access requirements, then, you know, at least you know your bigger area's been, you know, proposed, and it's generally agreed that you have that basic, you know, wine tasting in that general building, and, you know, if it gets, if anything, it's gonna get more smaller or
That makes sense.
So I'll revise the parking. I'll check with the state to see what it is that they require as far as town approvals.
What level of detail, I
What
guess,
level of
do they
detail
Yeah.
need?
do they
Just-
need approved by the
yeah,
town?
just make sure. I mean, because it's in your best interest that in case they say, well, you never gave anything to the town, and, you know, we got a problem,
Right.
really having them know that they really are approving what you're asking
Mhm.
for. Okay, so, I mean, you can find that out easy enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you can be on the next agenda, which is the 20th, and
Okay.
we'll wrap this up, unless
Yeah.
anybody else has something else
No, I
that
was just
should
gonna
be
say,
addressed.
with the parking, just think of it as common sense and how you would pull into a space and then pull out and get out.
Mhm.
And that's my only concern, because there's a couple in here that are just,
Tight.
yeah, well, it's not they're tight, they're they're
Well,
just
let me-
kind of
Kurt's,
tough.
Yeah,
Kurt's suggestion is good, I think. That's a good, like you said, it gives even more parking spaces, but I think it also meets our concerns.
Okay.
To be able to get out safely and pull straight out, not back down into Middletown Avenue.
well, I think more importantly too, knowing that people will be inviting some
Yeah.
wine, and you might have more than 4 wines to
You
taste.
like widen this, so you can
It
get this
depends
one.
on how many selections you could offer them, that, you know,
Right.
total amount of, I
Turn
know it's
around
only,
space they need, huh?
well, it's only a small
They're
amount
on
for
the
each
ounce, so,
taste,
yeah, the
yeah,
tastings are ounce,
but still,
still.
I mean,
doesn't
I
matter.
don't know if you got 8 varieties,
It's an ounce.
someone could have an interesting pull-out on turning around, so,
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
very good.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item, Town Council, Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-24, referral on town 2013 to 2014 through 2018 and 2019, revised capital improvement plans.
Okay, this should be color coded on the second sheet. If you remember, back in November, you had approved the fiscal year 2013-14 capital improvements plan. And why this is coming back to you is because at the, they found out more information about the funding sources. And so that they've revised, the town council has revised with the finance and director and the various agencies relating to these projects have now been able to determine where additional projects can be done based on the fact that the information has been received from the commission, from the state, on the state funding, so that we know that these projects now can be funded under the way that the state had
Okay.
thought they might be able to
So
fund them.
what do you need from us?
So what we need is a favorable report back on the review of this, and I have obviously a draft motion. But let me just go through this, okay, fast with the highlights. The townwide facility study, which was originally requested $100,000, which the council in the other proposal
we got the
didn't
grant for it.
fund, now can be done under the state aid grants for municipal projects. The town hall replacement converter boiler, which originally had been budgeted for $9,000 in the approval that you gave. We've got an additional $14,000 that can be added to pay for the cost of that under the LoSEP funds. That's for, aren't those the state road type of projects?
Well, LoSiP can be used for a lot of things.
Okay.
It's not
Well-
limited to state road.
Okay, well, we got funds for it, right?
Right.
The other
Okay.
thing is the ambulance, remounted second ambulance now has been added into the mix. There's other sources of funding for $160,000 or $1,000. Then also over on pavement overlay, there's an additional $50,000 that can be, it was originally $150,000 in the other one, and it's been bumped up another $50,000. So that's coming from LoSEP funds. In
Okay.
addition, the added projects under recreation for the reconstructed Northford Park, for the tennis and basketball court there, and also at Memorial Field, and also at the Stanley T. Williams. All those projects at an additional $120,000, $225,000, and $120,000 respectively, are now added in under federal state grants. Then the high school electric heat valves for 33 classrooms, $27,000 has been geared now under state aid funding for municipal projects. And then the last one is TVS electric heat valves for 24 classrooms with a cost of $19,000 has been put under state aid funds for municipal projects. So all these amounts have been secured as allowed under these state funding sources. Here, do you want another one? Whoever makes,
Go ahead.
Even it out of
Okay, I moved that the Planning and Zoning Commission report favorably on the Town Council's CGS Section 8-24 referral on the fiscal year 2013 through 2014 revised capital improvements plan as shown in submitted attachment of the current year's page of the town's 2013-2014 revised capital improvements plan.
Second.
Second? Charlie, second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes.
Thank you.
All right, approval of minutes from January 16th. I know the three of us were there.
Okay, anybody want to see a copy of that? Charlie, did you get my email?
Yeah, I got it.
Anybody want to see this?
I don't.
Okay, let's see. I guess you could vote on them because you were all in attendance.
I move to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of January 16th, 2014.
Any second out there?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved.
Okay.
Town planners report.
Okay, under application receipt of scheduling for the next meeting, we have the carryover items from tonight. Also, want to remind you that Tilcon is working on their next 5-year mining plan. They've secured Criscolo Engineering to do the next plan, which they had done the previous one. So the weather's been kind of bad, and dangerous up there because of the weather we've been having, but we should be receiving that within a month or so, hopefully, if the weather improves a little bit. But that still won't be too delayed in having you act on it, so.
Good.
Because the next phase is another 5-year plan, which they won't start yet until it's approved anyways, so.
Would it be of interest to some of the members to get a tour of the place, to know what the trap rock looks like? I know in the past the commission's done this.
Well, I know I've gone up there in the last one that we got approved on the mining plan, and it was an interesting trip. But it was done in the fall, so I don't know how it's gonna be up there on the mountain in the winter. But
Well, it wouldn't have to be before we, just to go up and see what they do and what the
Yeah.
place looks like.
I'd love
You're correct, it's worth seeing. It definitely
Yeah, I agree.
is.
I've
Yeah.
I've never seen it, I'd love to see it.
yeah.
It's,
I think I need to see it before I can review this plan.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
You put on your boots and go.
Yeah.
Well, there's snow up there right now, but I would think at some point when the weather is better and you can
Yeah.
actually see the ground cover, the commission members who are interested should go up there. Yeah,
And they
we
do
can
do a
arrange.
nice tour. I mean,
Yeah.
it is worth seeing. You're 100% correct.
I think we did
Especially when
one.
they paint a barge and put a tent on it for dinner. Yeah.
All right,
Well, and
So-
also, one of the previous other approvals, remember I told you they were changing, and doing, some other types of, their processing up on the hill now, and they were gonna build out that and kind of dismantle this other stuff down below here. So, you might be able to see some of that at the same time, so.
all right,
I'll
anything
talk
else coming
to,
in?
their representative, that will be one of the things you'd like to also do, okay?
Anything else coming in?
Right now, not that I know of.
Okay.
There may be something else, but I can't really speak of it
Yep, okay.
right now, okay? It's
Mm.
premature.
Municipal referral notifications?
Also, just to, I don't have anything under the municipal referral notification review. We haven't received anything else that directly impacts our town. As far as development update, the charrette, I sent you an article, newspaper article. You probably read what was in the Sound. And the fact that we'll let you know by email if it's, when anything else happens with reports or other further
Mhm.
developments of participation
Okay.
for the next step in the process, okay?
Good.
And I know there might be something else afterwards, after we conclude that I'll think of, but right now, I can't think of anything else that you really need to. Oh, by the way, Charlie, you had asked about Autech on.
Oh, yeah.
On Foxton Road. The building official was aware of it. He had sent out a notice because they were in violation. They had not gotten a demolition permit. So he was following through on that. And you also asked about something else, the Sewell Road. The Sewell-
Oh, about the pot, dirt pot, the
Right, right.
dirt.
Yeah, Kurt and I went out there,
That was
also
from the
to
state
look,
project, wasn't it?
also to look at, the site that
Hmm.
you approved on the lot here. They
I think
have
I
some-
asked about that too,
Huh?
because I thought they were building, it's just the site that's past the storage.
Mhm.
That's correct.
And I asked, I was just kind of curious what they were going to build there. Because I
Three
thought.
buildings.
Three buildings?
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's where they're storing the
Yeah. Would you
The
like
big
me to show you the plan afterwards?
no.
Three big buildings, yeah. Actually, they're like in step one and step two, with one building being in one step one. That would be for the owner's, building, use, and then the other two would be, rental of contractors and processing people.
Okay,
I think that's it.
Move we adjourn.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.